Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today, we have with us an energy miracle maker, and her name is Katie Hunt. I'm going to let her explain everything about herself and tell you her story. And we had a great conversation right before this about Reiki, and it's fun. And what she has to share is absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to jump right in. Welcome, Katie.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So you do energy healing, which I've actually just kind of gotten into recently in the last couple of years, and it's amazing what you do and what you can learn. So tell us about a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into what you do.
Yeah, it is absolutely my most favorite tool in the toolbox. I was a very sensitive kid growing up. And so I had to learn coping mechanisms that weren't always the best and weren't the most loving of coping mechanisms. And this just led to a lot of anxiety and eventually developing depression. And so then when I got to my early 20s, I was sitting in a really bad place. It was the worst it had ever been. I was so anxious and so depressed. And I was looking around at my life and just thinking, when did this become my normal? Where I was around people who weren't good, happy people. I was just having no hope for my future whatsoever. And I was like, something's got to change. There was this tiny little voice in the back of my mind that was like, you just have to make this change. And I thought, I just need to do something so out of my comfort zone. And that was Reiki. A friend had told me about Reiki, but I didn't believe in it because I was like, that's all, nonsense. I'm too smart for that. And I thought, well, nothing else is working. So why not just give it a try? So I booked my Reiki appointment and I was on the table. And my life forever changed from that point. I could feel the energy moving inside of me for the first time. I felt this anxiety that had just been forming underneath my skin for decades just start to lift off. And then at the end, for the first time ever in my life, I felt peace and mental calm. And I was just so amazed that this was even possible and that I could feel this good. So I just had to find out what the hell I just experienced because it was
Right.
just like absolutely just not in my realm of possibility. And so I started studying Reiki and meditation, and I just started collecting all sorts of tools because I really wanted to learn more about this and I wanted to help others feel the way that I felt because people don't need to suffer the way that we do. There are tools out there, and whether that's Reiki or something else, there are things that we have to help cope with our human experience that can help you to let go of the stuff that we carry around and to help you to come to a place of peace. And so, fast forward, it's been a decade now. And I've been using Reiki in my own life, and I eventually started taking on clients. And it always baffles me what I witness as a healer, the way that people are able to transform within a matter of minutes. And it just feels like something that I think everybody should try if they feel open to it.
Well, and it's funny because when I started, I was telling you, I was just in the middle. I did tell you for a fact, actually. I was just did my first Reiki initiation
Yeah.
yesterday. And when I was going through some of the training and she was talking about how she does Reiki on a lot of animals. And, at first it's one of those things. It's kind of like energy muscle testing. The first time I saw it in action, I was like, I went home to my husband and it was done on my daughter to diagnose some pretty serious things. And if I said to my husband, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have been like poo poo on that. And I said, but we were at kind of like with you hit a point where you're at this desperation and this point, like, I will do anything. I will try anything. I will believe in anything because I need help. And that's where I was with my daughter when I saw this muscle testing. And then I started doing it was like, what is that? And then I met a very good friend of mine now who is an energy healer and uses tuning forks and sound baths. And I thought, wow, it's so, I mean, like you said, the very first experience, you're just like, where has this been all of my life? And I know a lot of people out there listening are poo pooing and, that won't work for me. Nothing will work for me. And I'm here to tell you there's a million different modalities. Like you said, there's a million things. I have spent the last 30 years throwing them all at the wall to see what will stick so that I have tools in my toolbox to help people. The energy, some of the energy clearing is the most powerful I've ever seen. Absolutely, hands down, bar none. So if you're questioning it, look at it with an open mind. Don't, and I tell people there's good Reiki people out there, there's bad Reiki people out there. It's like everything. There's good coaches,
Mhm.
bad coaches, good therapists, bad therapists. There's people that are out there not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But if you find someone that you resonate with and you trust, it's super powerful. So
Huge.
um so your very first experience was
Mhm.
Reiki and any kind of energy healing,
Yes. Yeah. It was the very first thing.
and you felt a relief after one session?
Oh, yeah. Within one session, I was like, my life is completely different. I was self-medicating, as one does when they are trying to escape the discomfort of their pain, and it cured it within that one session. I never wanted to go back at all to how I was self-medicating. And I just felt such relief that there was a whole other world that maybe I didn't even know about, that maybe we can't see with our eyes, but maybe that it's there to support us as humans, or maybe that we could tap into to help move things around. And like you said, I didn't believe it when I first did it. And it took me, I had to study it with my mind in order for my brain to get on board. And sometimes even 10 years down the road when I'm doing healing, I'm like, is this thing on? And people are like, wow, I felt this shift and I've seen it with my own eyes. And so what I tell people is you don't necessarily have to believe in it. Allow the universe, allow the Reiki to prove it to you, but
Yes.
just be open. As long as you are open, you can receive it and the healing can take place.
And it's the same thing with any kind of healing. If you're not open-minded, you're it's going in one ear and out the other ear. It's the same thing as the first time I went to hypnosis for something. I went
Yeah.
for a friend, that wanted to take me, and I think she wanted to lose weight. I was about 102 pounds at the time, so I was like, why am I going here? But again, you have these preconceived notions of the little pendulum swinging back and forth, and you were getting sleepy. And I'm like, I walked out of there and I'm like, yep, still 90 pounds. Like, didn't work. And I was ignorant to it. And I don't mean ignorant being, I mean ignorant meaning not knowing. And because of that, I had a very closed mind.
Yeah.
So with anything, that is the number one thing, is having an open mind. And explain to the people that are listening, what is the general consensus? Like, people have, just give me the overall view of Reiki.
So, how people experience it is I feel lighter. So, it really feels like something has lifted off of you because we are willing to receive that sense of peace. And so, what Reiki is, in really simple terms, is it is ki means life force energy in Japanese. In Chinese, we call it chi. And in Sanskrit, we call it prana, and it's life force. And so, what a Reiki healer does is allows the individual to receive more of this life force energy so that their bodies can come into a place of homeostasis and heal itself. And so life force is all around us at all times, right? We can think of it as oxygen, right? We breathe in oxygen all day long. But then if somebody comes along and is like, how long has it been since you've taken 3 deep breaths? And you're like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then you stop and you take those deep breaths. Even if you do it right now, just taking a big deep breath, you do feel different.
Yeah.
And so that is a very real example of how Reiki can help people, but just on a much larger scale, is that the Reiki healers are just the channel for you to receive more of what you're already doing.
So if someone goes, so say someone wanted to hears this and says, "Oh, I'd like to try Reiki." What
Mhm.
is the like what different things might they come to you for? I guess is
Mm.
what you're.
Yeah. So it's kind of all across the board. I've had people who have terminal cancer who are kind of desperate for some sort of help and they may not even fully believe in it, but they're open to it. I've had people come to me for panic attacks. I've had clients come with infertility or even trying to recover from the trauma that is miscarrying and losing a child. I've had people come to me to heal from heartbreak or burnout. And I've also had people come to me when, they are like, I snapped at my toddler and I heard the words that my dad used to say to me come out of my mouth. And that scared me. So now I'm here because I need to release this rage that I have within me. So it's really all across the board. And I like to say, like, if you don't know what to do, it's a great first step to start focusing on your energy, whether it's going for a Reiki appointment or doing some sort of energy clearing exercise. It can be very helpful as a first step to help us to calm down. That frantic energy that we feel when we're triggered and there's like these alarm bells going off. Instead of us, think of a fire alarm. When there's a fire alarm going off, we wouldn't just muffle the sound. We would probably try to tend to the smoke, which is where the fire is. So what Reiki does is it really helps us to put out the fire initially so that we can find the root of the problem from a more calm place instead of trying to be like, why am I so triggered? And like finding it when we're frantic and stressed out. So when you feel that, like those flutters in your chest or that pit in your stomach or your head is going nuts and you just can't fall asleep and you're just craving some mental calm, it's a great time to turn to that. And I always like to recommend, if you're feeling like angry, depressed, or fearful, you need to clear yourself. You need to come to a Reiki appointment if you're open to it, or clear yourself energetically, because those are sort of the lowest emotions that make us suffer. And so if we can release that, then we get more clarity as to what is actually causing the problem, because a lot of what is up at the surface doesn't really need our attention. It's just there and frantic because it's ready to go.
Yep.
So really, in short, for anything, Reiki can be used for everything.
Thank you for that. And repeat again those emotions that you said were the lowest that do us harm, because
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
that's important for people to hear.
Yeah, it's fear, guilt, anger, and depression.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that those emotions are bad, but they are a message from your inner self, however you like to think of it, that it's saying that it needs your attention. It needs some attention. They're not to be ignored. They need a lot of love. And whether you escort those emotions into an appointment with your therapist or with another professional or just with your own self and loving and accepting yourself, they are not to be ignored. And so when you feel that way, often we're just like, I just want to feel calm. I just want to feel this absence of busyness in my mind. And so if we find ourselves thinking that way or torturing ourselves, beating ourselves up, it's time to do something about it.
Yes. And a lot of the people that listen to this, being adult child of dysfunction, they've
Mhm.
lived this way their whole lives. Their minds have always been a whirlwind of thoughts. And like you said, what do? They either dissociate or they self medicate. There's only so many things your brain will let you do, because you can't sustain that kind of chronic stress forever. So you
No.
you have to deal with it somehow, and your brain will do that to protect you. And a lot
Mhm.
of times it is dissociating, and a lot of times it is, like you said, self-medicating, and that's where a lot of and then it's a vicious cycle, because you
Yeah.
self-medicate to get rid of the craziness in your head or the busyness and the pain, and then you go through a whole nother stage, because then you go through the guilt and what did I say and what did I and it's literally a vicious self-perpetuating cycle. So yes, if you can find something when you become first aware of these, first step is learning how to feel your emotions, being actually aware of them, because some people are not.
Mhm.
um but yeah, it's a great first step. So if, say, they're listening and they're like, wow, this sounds amazing, but I don't have the resources. I don't have the whatever it is, whatever excuse or reasoning. I call it an
Mhm.
excuse because I was guilty of it too.
Mhm.
Um, but whatever it is that isn't going to get them there, is there anything that they can do at home to start
Mhm.
calming that?
Yeah. And so meditation or just taking a couple deep breaths, meditation isn't just you shutting off your mind. It is just about you just calming down and just noticing. And if that's you sitting there being like, look at how much my heart is beating right now in this moment, that's great. It's you just pausing to be present with yourself. And so what I'll say is, if you are being really honest with yourself that you don't have the time or the resources to go and take care of yourself in a longer appointment, I would be happy to provide your listeners with a free energy clearing meditation. So it's something that I have given to hundreds of women at this point, and it is a 12-minute process that will help them move from that place of frantic, stressed energy to a place of calm, which at that point, then they will have more clarity and they'll know what the next steps are to take. And so this is a way that instead of reaching for, that glass of wine or that cup of coffee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that is actually us just putting a pillow over the fire alarm. This is a practical tool that you can do. You can give yourself 12 minutes, go excuse yourself, set the time up, and just do it. And if you really don't have 12 minutes, sometimes moms are having toddlers and they can't really have a second to themselves. I just like to create images in my mind. So if a vacuum resonates with you, just imagine a vacuum from an angel or your grandmother, whoever makes you feel safe and happy, or a fairy coming and like vacuuming out that brain of yours or that pit in your stomach. And then just imagine yourself breathing in some light. It can be really simple. The thing that I love about energy healing and Reiki in particular is like energy healing operates on a plane with beyond time and space, but it's also something that we just set an intention. I would like to release this pain. I would like to receive more healing. And from there, that gives us a whole lot of power to integrate this healing into our life. Like we don't have to stop and just meditate for 20 minutes every single day if we don't have the time. But if we set the intention of like, I'm taking some breaths right now to release this anger, the energy will help you and assist you along with that.
Love it. And you said you have a 12 minutes worth of stuff. You're going to give it to me to put in the links?
Yes, we will put the link. Yeah, it's called the Ultimate Energy Clearing Meditation, and it is a fan favorite. So I hope that you will do it. And if you do download it, please let me know how it goes for you. I always love hearing the stories. And, sometimes I have clients who just put it on while they're falling asleep at night and they wake up feeling a lot better. So if you really don't have the time, maybe just put it on while you're having a sleep.
And I thank you for that, because I'm sure they will love it. And I will put it on my Facebook page. I'll put it everywhere, because I think that's what people need.
Perfect.
Is they need
Uh,
guidance. They
yeah.
need somebody to say, hold their hand and walk them to this and say, here you go. This will help you. No matter how bad you think it is, this will make it better, somewhat better. And
Yeah.
we were talking about just the stress and anxiety, and the fact that so many people have been in that. And if you hadn't heard any of the episodes before, because I talk a lot about it and just the whole nervous system in general, and it might be a couple deep breaths. I know they were in our training that with the Reiki, she was saying, ideally you want to do if you're doing self-healing, all these body parts, 3 to 5 minutes a piece, but any Reiki is better than no Reiki.
Yeah.
And if a couple minutes, I know, even just to calm, even when my kids were little, I never let them do anything or react to anything without breathing in, counting to 3, and then react.
Yeah.
Because
It's a
just
great practice.
you cannot react from you can't react from your true self if you're in this fight or flight, all over the place, stressed out. You can't. It's just not a
Yeah.
natural reaction anyway. It's a reactive thing from something that happened in the past. So, like you
Yeah.
said, it could be your inner child, it could be that 5-year-old self having a temper tantrum. Whatever it is, it's not you in the present. So sometimes, even like you said, that deep breath of just a couple seconds, or just, I'm going to sit here, I'm breathing. Oh, I notice I'm a little anxious right now, but that's okay. This too shall pass.
Absolutely. And I loved what you said about like just take 3 deep breaths before you respond or take a big deep breath. I think a lot of the time, what I hear when I teach meditation is like, oh, I could never meditate. I don't have time or I'm too busy. And I think that we, especially as, women, we sort of create these restraints in our mind of like, this is what it looks like. And if I'm not fitting in this world, then I didn't do it right. And the thing that I love about this world, this healing is like, there is no such thing as right or wrong, or, oh, you didn't meditate for 20 minutes. You didn't do anything. It's like taking a deep breath will do so much for you. It doesn't have to be something that you need to stop everything to focus on because that's not realistic for a lot of us. And so if we keep that in our mind, then we just keep pushing out our healing and our peace to be this thing that is just so far out of reach. And I like to think that how I serve my clients too is creating practical solutions that fit into their life so that they don't
Yeah.
have to feel like they're failing at their own self-love.
Yeah. I was going to say, because there's nothing worse than making something like meditation another job, something
Yeah.
that you have to do to check off on a task list.
Yeah.
I was watching, it was a TEDx talk a couple weeks ago, and I was listening to it, and it was about just about that. It was about calming your nervous system and everything. And he was actually talking about people that have like ADHD, and they're all over the place, and their mind is constantly running. And he literally did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 breathing, where, five things you can see, four things you can hear, and went through the senses. And by the time, and he started by asking someone, do you meditate? And they said, no, I can't meditate because my mind is everywhere, all over the place. And he
Yeah.
had them take 3 deep breaths and then do that exercise. And he said, you've just meditated.
Yeah.
You've just put yourself in the present moment for
Mm.
long enough to take you away from whatever was stressing you out. And he's like, wow, that was cool. And it was such an eye-opening for some people, like, oh wow, I never thought about it being that simple.
Yeah.
You can meditate while you're walking with your headphones on. It's
Yeah.
not this sit down, hands crossed in the air like this, big round
Yeah.
belly, Buddha belly.
Yeah.
That's not meditation.
No, I know. There's a psychic in the city that I live in, and you would think a psychic is like so in tune with the world, and she can't sit still and meditate. So she meditates while she vacuums
Hmm.
or like while you do dishes. It's just focusing on one task at a time, giving that brain a break. And that point of focus is so important because our brains are not meant to do nothing. So you have to give it something to focus on, but just not the thoughts. Bring it to the front and in your awareness. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely love it. So
Yeah.
can you give us some other examples of maybe a couple just small little things besides deep breathing that you might try to just kind of calm yourself?
Yeah. So take it back to basics. Are you getting enough water? Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating? Making sure that our basic fundamental needs are covered first and foremost is so like it's so underrated in this world. Because sometimes we're not anxious or tired. It's just because we haven't drank any water. So making sure that we are taking a couple breaths and having some water is great. I also really like, those moments when you're really anxious. I play what I call the appreciation game. And you are just sitting in a room and you're just orienting yourself in space to remember and to tell your brain that you are safe. And so, this is a therapy technique, but you basically just point out things in the room. But I like to add a little spin on it, which is appreciation, because gratitude is this magical energy that can transmute so much of our stress and garbage because we can't be appreciative and worried or guilty at the same time. So
Yes.
you look around the room, even you can do this even when you're in a bar or something. Say, "Oh, I really like the grain on this bar. Oh, I really like the wallpaper." And you just start to look at the details. And it's very similar to what you were talking about like what are 5 things that you hear? What do you smell? It's about orienting yourself in the room and you can go through your senses. What am I seeing with my eyes that I can appreciate? What am I hearing that I can appreciate? Maybe someone is just meeting up with their friend they haven't seen in a long time and they're so excited to see each other. And you can gain some appreciation and love from witnessing life in a beautiful form. Or maybe you can smell delicious French fries that are going in the back. You're like, I love the smell of French fries. And I'm so grateful that I am sitting in a place where I can smell French fries and I live in a place where I could order French fries if I really wanted to. And so it seems like kind of ridiculous, but I would do this when I was in my worst places and I didn't have the time to step away and do any sort of meditation or healing work because I was out in the world. But it's a really solid way to orient yourself and to also bring in some of that positive energy into our bodies without trying to say, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious. We're focused on other things that are in front of us.
And I would add too, and I love this because I do this. I tell people everything every morning before I get out of bed. I am thankful for 5 things. It could be that my foot didn't crack when I walked. Whatever it is, it's thankful for 5 things because then when the tough things come at you, you automatically go. It's muscle memory. Your
Yeah.
brain is automatically in a thankful mode. And so if you get cut off, instead of flipping the guy off and brabba and saying every bad word, you're thankful that he didn't hit you. Or you're
Yeah.
thankful that you're not in that big of a hurry that you had to be going that fast. Or you're thankful that blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like you said, an attitude of gratitude, it goes so far. And
Mhm.
also, I love that you said that orienting thing. But what I would suggest to people, if you're listening, practice it when you're not stressed out. Practice
Mhm.
doing it because it is muscle memory. And the more that you do it, because again, if you're stressed out and you're starting this process, you're not thinking through the process. And it's so practice it, do it now. Like do it when we get off this call or when you finish listening
Yeah.
to this. Practice doing it on a regular basis so that when you feel that anxiety coming on, or you feel your heart start to race, or your palms start to sweat, or all those things when you're starting to get super anxious, you can say, okay, I'm starting to get anxious. Here's 5 things. And you have those exercises because they're incredibly powerful. And if they've been practiced, they're even more powerful.
It's so true. Yeah. And then it's also like, okay, I recognize this. Yeah.
Yep. And then
It's
because it's kind of I work with a girl at work and God love her. I absolutely adore her. And she gets herself so worked up, she gets into a full blown panic attack.
Mhm.
Well, that's a whole lot harder to deal with than letting her inhale some lavender and talking through the 5 things that she can see in the room
Mhm.
before she's sweating and it's
Mhm.
so yeah, that's a good tip. Very good tip.
Yeah, and it also helps for us to start rewiring our brain. You mentioned that it's muscle memory. We have these really embedded negative like pathways in our brains, and that's from a place of survival, especially from what everyone has gone through listening to this, that it's a coping mechanism, but it doesn't serve us so much now that we are adults and we have autonomy and we have choice. And so we have to rewire our brain, and that's an exercise in how to do it is like that those moments in traffic when yeah somebody comes into you and you can recognize like, oh no, I don't need to give them that energy, I don't need to go down this pathway, I have a choice, I can go down this positive way, and this is how we begin to rewire it. And so why I wanted to mention that is it's going to feel difficult at first and it might feel fake, but it doesn't mean that it's not working, and it'll get easier over time, and then all of a sudden you'll find yourself walking around and going, oh my God, I love trees. And like wanting to weep because you're so grateful that you were witnessing this beautiful, gorgeous tree. But that's not going to happen right away because that's hasn't been the norm. And so be patient with yourself in this practice, but keep at it because there's science behind it and that it does work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Neurons that fire together, wire together. So
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
There's all those fun sayings coming from all those big psychologists. I love to use
Yeah.
them though.
Yeah.
I love to steal those sayings. Um, I love this. And I'm trying to think, I'm just trying to give practical, like I'm trying to get some more practical tips from you because
Yeah.
those are huge. And the energy healing in general is so powerful. I mean, the bottom line is what you put if you really grasp the concept of this universal energy and
Mhm.
you and what you put out, you get back. So if you can practice, like I said, if you're constantly just practicing, I'm not giving myself that negative energy. I'm breathing it in through my head and I'm going to get rid of everything that I don't need anymore. Get
Yeah.
rid of it. Like when you take that deep breath and you breathe out, imagine everything going out that you don't want in your body anymore. And
Yeah.
you'll start to even that practice when I remember when I was one of my psychologists said to me when I was like 30, Tammy, when you breathe in, picture that positive energy coming in. And when you breathe out, get rid of anything you don't need every
Mhm.
time. It's kind
Yeah.
of like the God bag. Someone was telling me about it,
Yeah.
where you write 10 things every night before you go to bed and you put it in a little bag and you give it to God.
I love that idea. Get it out of you. Yeah.
Get it out of you.
That's one of the
Absolutely.
things that I love to teach the kids that I do meditation for is we call it like the big balloon. And so you breathe in and you fill up your belly with a big air balloon and you imagine that you're putting everything in this balloon, like the stress from the day and whatever words that we would use for whatever we were going through. But it works so good for all of us. And it's something I've been doing forever. And then you feel that balloon sort of filling up with all of your stuff. And you just notice that tension of what it feels like to hold on to all of it. And then you take a big, deep breath out of the mouth and you just imagine the balloon floating up and away from you. And then you do it twice more. And so that is something that like people could even do online. You don't have to
Yeah.
stop and focus. It's just like, pluck, I don't want this anymore. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you just give it to someone else. Now I do have a question because
Yeah.
I know we talk about universal power and or universal energy and the divine, and everybody kind of has their own theory behind it. What do
Mhm.
you tell the people that are not religious, or not even religious, but let's say you don't believe in God?
Yeah.
Explain that for people that are listening, because I don't want to be this, oh, it's this divine, I say divine, and to my mind it goes right to God, but no,
Yeah.
universal energy is universal energy. But explain that to people.
Yeah, so I totally understand that. For me, I think what really helps me is to remember that our brains, we are so young on this planet. Like our brains are brand new. And so there's so much more of this world and this earth and this experience that we will probably never understand. And that can bring a lot of room for questions in there. We don't know everything, and we can learn that and gain evidence from that by looking at how we think about the universe, how we look about actual space, what we know about it, and the depths of the ocean. There are still species that we have not yet discovered or can see because we are not capable of going back or going down that low. And so, what I just say to people is, would it give you a little bit of hope to leave room for not knowing that there could potentially be something greater than yourself that can account for, excuse me, the miracles that happen suddenly, somebody being miraculously healed, or you get that little bit of in intuition that pops in your mind that's like, I wouldn't walk down that alley, or I would turn left, and then you find out there was this huge 6-car pileup if you would have turned right. And so whether you want to think about it as, oh, that's just my subconscious mind, or you want to think that maybe there is something else out there who has their hand on your shoulder whispering in your ear, whatever makes you feel most comfortable, I'm cool with. And whether you want to believe it or not, everything is energy, including us. That's science. So we can use energy in order to manipulate matter and shift it. And so if that's all that it is to you, then that works for me. And
Amen.
yeah,
I
I
love
think
it.
that,
And
yeah,
because I've had people question that and be like, well, you have to do this and you have to believe in this. And no, you don't. You just have to be open to accepting. You have to be
yeah,
open to accepting. And honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think there's a person out there that thinks there's not something bigger than them.
yeah.
They just have to admit it. They can't control everything. So give someone else, let something else have take that control and run with it.
And I just think, the times I've had a very complicated relationship and I still question, God and universe. And I think that that's healthy. And I think that for me, in the times where I thought maybe there is nothing greater than myself, it made me feel like a lot more less hopeful.
Yeah.
And because it just seemed these things are so random, or there's nothing out there, whether it is just my subconscious mind or whether it is just energy around me, there's nothing out there that's helping me. It just made me feel really alone and isolated. And so I just chose to believe I'm a human having a human experience. And so it makes me feel good to believe that there is something greater than myself. And that helps me cope with my human experience.
Yep. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. And we all have developed, if you're listening to this podcast, we've all developed those coping mechanisms that are no longer serving us. So
Yes.
wouldn't it be nice to let go of a couple of them?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, absolutely. This has been super fun. I could talk
Yeah.
to you all day,
I
but,
know. Loved this.
so tell us what you do. Like, what is your platform? Do you do one-on-one? Do you all one-on-one? Do you go online? I know, is it, are you in a state where you can do Reiki online and virtually and everything?
Yes, yeah. So I do all of my appointments right now through distance, which is great because then you can receive your healing from the comfort of your own home. And because we work with energy, it doesn't require us for us to be in the same room. So whether you are sitting with me in person or we are on Zoom, I can access your energy the exact same way. And so I've been delivering everything through distance. I work with people one-on-one, and then I also have a more of a hybrid sort of experience where we get some one-on-one work. You get to be part of a group of other like-minded women, which is very important. And then you also have some tools that you can access at any time on your own and take with you forever.
Perfect. And we will put
Yes.
that, all of your links I will put in the chat so that people can connect with you however they want. That download, I'm super excited to get that out to a few people I can think of particularly that need
Yes.
it.
Yes.
I could really use it. But so if people want to reach out to you, what is the best
Mhm.
place for them to reach you?
Yeah, so I would say email for sure. We'll pop my email in there as well. I'm on Instagram and my DMs are open if you like. It's at Katie Hunt Co. And also, if you've been listening to this and you're curious about how Reiki could help you, and even if you're not really sure about how you feel about it, please book a consultation with me. They're free. I would just love the opportunity to chat with you. We can talk about what it is that you're going through, what it is that you desire, and I'll share with you how I can help you bridge the gap. And then if at that point you'd like to continue forward, then we can talk about that. But if not, I'll send you on your way. There's absolutely no pressure, but I would just love for everybody who's curious or who would like to connect with me to reach out and book a free consult.
Love it. And absolutely. We'll put those links in there for sure because, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And if you're questioning, it doesn't hurt to explore.
Yeah.
I always say, because people are like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. There's no stop sign. There's no end point to being 100% better until you're 100% better. But there's always layers to explore and there's always things. And if you have an open mind, there's always just a little bit more out there that can make you feel just a little bit better, no matter
Yeah.
how long you've been on the journey. So,
So
okay,
true.
Katie. So now the good one. If you had to leave the listeners with one piece of advice or some words of wisdom
Mm.
after talking, what would you say would be your number one tip or piece of advice?
What's coming to me now is something that my partner has been saying to me quite often lately, which is this too shall pass. And I think that that is very important to remember when we've been feeling like we've been stuck in a crappy place for way too long, that this too shall pass and that you can help it pass a little bit easier with some support
Mm,
and
I
being a
love
little
that. I say
kinder
this
to
too
yourself.
shall pass probably 3 times a day because no
Yeah.
matter how bad it seems at the moment, it is just a moment in time. And if
Yeah.
you have the right attitude and you make the choice to have the right attitude, which is big, and that could be a whole nother conversation,
Yeah.
then you look for the positive and just know that this too shall pass. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me. I've really enjoyed being here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And for everybody else out there listening, it's just another tool in your toolbox. We haven't talked about Reiki yet. I mean, we touched on it lightly, but we haven't really dove into it and try it. You might like it. I guarantee actually that you will like it. I will give you my personal guarantee. So
Yeah.
you all have a blessed week and we will see you back in a couple days. Bye.
Thank you.